The word HAOLE. In Hawaii, everyone can get it. We have songs that tease all the races on the radio.
Anti-white racism in Hawaii. Code switching that happens here is so unique.
Does that mean you have to like shrink yourself?
Something I struggled with for a long time is this idea of proving yourself. When I was going to Campbell, I was also scared of Alima kids. Like those kids, nothing makes you more local.
Continue on the word respect. It's huge here, right?
It is. Living here, every interaction you have is at least somewhat colored by the history.
Yeah, let's assume you have kids. Would you want to raise them in any other state than Hawaii? Let's say someone's watching and they're like, oh yeah, my kid's 14 and we're going to move here and we're concerned about that. And we might move to Eva. 5 things to do if you're haole and moving to Hawaii.
Okay.
And 5 things not to do.
Oh, okay.
So I met Michael at my wife and I had like a rare babysitter and we went to a comedy show. You killed it, dude.
Thank you. Man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You know, I'm really like discerning and hyper analytical, and so I'm like, oh, he's actually put time into the craft, and like there's like a pacing and a timing, and then he'd like you'd bring back something from earlier in the set to really have like a punch and then carry on. And I don't know how it all works, but I was like, there's something higher level here. So yeah, you killed it.
Thank you, man. I
and
really
then in that you said you went to Campbell.
I did. Yes.
And I went to Campbell, and I moved to Hawaii mid childhood, and long story short, I went to Irima and intermediate school, and then my parents got me a district exemption to not go to Campbell because it's like you shouldn't go. You're from the mainland. Like I was like, nah, but nobody can even tell already the way I talk. And look at me, like I can go Campbell, and my friends go Campbell. And then like the first 2 weeks there's a hostage situation. There's a hostage situation. And
checks out.
But I'm jumping the gun a little bit. So we talked after the show, and I was like, hey, you want to do like a podcast thing one day? And you were like, yeah, let's do it. So here we are. So you born and raised Hawaii?
No. So I'm military parents.
Okay.
So I moved here when I was 3.
So
But so I stayed here for like 5, 6, I think 6, 7 years. And then I moved away to the mainland, bounced around a little bit, came back for high school.
Where'd you go?
I lived in Texas, Belgium, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and then I was back here.
What branch?
Army.
Yeah. Okay. The video I wanted to do, we want to do a few videos, like being Hawaiian in Hawaii, being haole in Hawaii, being black in Hawaii, being all these things. And I was like, this guy is funny. And as I talk on the mic, and we went to Campbell, like we're alum.
This is the first time, by the way, me going to Campbell has gotten me an opportunity. So I do appreciate that.
It's an advantage. Yeah. Well, so let's start with that. So the word haole, like haole, it's not necessarily derogatory, right?
No,
or is it to you? I don't want to assume, but
no.
I see it as just a word. Depends on how you use it.
Yeah, it's just a word. It's like a lot of words. It takes on the context of the words around it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's that old joke, like you can be one haole or you can be one fucking haole. Like, sorry, I don't know if I can curse.
No,
but,
you can curse. We can bleep it or put a parental advisory.
Yeah, the bleep is fine. Yeah. But I have been called that word in a very like endearing like way.
Like, bro, it's my holiday friend Michael. Right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
So fun, bro. This guy funny. It's so funny holiday.
Yeah.
Right? Like stuff like that, right?
And it's never taken on a negative tone for me more than any other word.
You've never had negative like freaking holiday move or.
So I have, but kind of how I view like the anti-white racism in Hawaii is that there are going to be mean people everywhere you go.
Uneducated.
Yeah, and those people sure here like races, you can use that as like the backdrop where they're mad at me because I'm white. But those people, if they were on the mainland, would have been mad at me for something else. Yeah. Would have been mad at me for dressing a certain way.
Misery
or being
loves
a certain
company.
Way. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel as much like I was any more bullied or targeted here than I have been anywhere else.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. My stepmom. So my dad only like white women. Like he's born in 1944. He was a Waikiki Beach boy. When he was young, he couldn't even go in the hotel. So like racist towards Hawaiians. Like dark kids, get out of here. And a lot of the Beach Boys developed this infatuation for like haole women, and he only dated he dated like one Portuguese, which I'm like, they still Europe, you know. For the people at home, that's Portuguese. Portuguese is like the Hawaiian like for Portuguese, and so he only liked white women. And so like my stepmom, who had lived here like 20 years or something, she'd go to the grocery store, and occasionally some old miserable auntie would be like, move haole or whatever. Yeah. And then, but like you, she was just like, the pros of living here far outweigh the cons, and like I just love it here. And so she existed fine forever. But she would get it. She would get it.
I mean, I think everyone gets it to some degree, because you are, even if it's small, you're still a minority here. Like, you know, like being white here is you are a minority, so you are different, and people can latch on to that difference.
Right.
And that can work for your benefit, and it can work against you. Yeah.
I mean, there is the whole like, you know, your people took the land, and but there's that whole generational trauma and stigma that, because like Japanese people could get it too, but they don't have that, you know. It's like, oh, you guys are just the managers of everything, right? Or whatever. Like, it's like they actually took the land. They were on the plantation too, right? In Hawaii, everyone can get it, right? Like, so we have songs that tease all the races on the radio, right? Yeah. But for this video, we're focusing on like your experience of being, you know, haole in Hawaii. You never, like, how about going to Campbell, for example? What year did you graduate?
2014.
Oh, that's recent, huh? So I'm 02, he's 03. So, man, we're far removed. The reason why I think about that in a real estate context is by the 2014 and like by the teens, when you went to high school, a lot of that new construction had been built. Yes. Which attracts different demographics. Yes.
Campbell was very different. So my sisters are 9 and 10 years older than me, respectively.
Did they go Campbell?
No. So they went Alima. But then they got an exemption.
And they took it, unlike me.
Yeah, I did go to Campbell during a time, like, Campbell still has a reputation that I think is rooted in a few decades ago.
Several decades. Yeah.
And so, like, I didn't have as much of a problem, but my sisters got bullied a lot in Alima. And I think middle school is generally just worse than high school is for bullying.
7th and 8th graders are just horrible humans.
They're brutal. They're awful
We should just put them on like Australia until they come until they're like 16. They can
and then they're allowed to come back. Yeah. Did you learn your lessons? So they just got bullied a lot in middle school, and so they went to Leilehua.
Was that better?
For them, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
They fit in really well. One of my sisters got in with like paddling there, and my other sister got in with ROTC. So they found their cliques.
Would you get a district exemption? And if you're in that position, would you be like, nah, not Campbell, I got a district exemption to Leilehua, which for people at home, if you're not familiar, is like Wahiawa. So I get it. It's near Schofield, so way more military kids that you can assimilate
but also
with.
That's a long bus ride.
That's a long bus ride, but...
What about Kapolei or Pro City?
Listen, I don't know why. I just know that's where they went. I was 7 at the time, so I was just going to elementary school, and that was fine. Like, no, people aren't bullies yet in early elementary school, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it starts at like 5th grade maybe or something. My wife's an elementary school teacher. I had this guy reach out to me, and he's like, brah, Derek, I run the Campbell Facebook group for all the, all the alumni and blah, blah, blah. And I saw you had a bad experience at Campbell, but bro, I'd love to invite you in the group. And Uncle's probably going to be watching this. And he was like, yeah, my sons went to Campbell. And I was thinking about it. I was like, do I know your sons? And then when he was telling me who they were, I was like, yeah, that's part of the guys. I used to have like 10 guys trying to kick my ass. They're part of the problem, Yeah. Well, in my experience, I was fine. A couple of times I had some problems. It was mostly brought upon myself. So I don't fault Campbell for that. Yeah. But then I had this, like, in my junior year of high school, it was like the movie Twilight. It was like Jacob and Edward type.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like intense drama with this girl in the middle. And that guy was part of the football crew. And in sophomore year, I had been like, they saw how fast I could run at my size, and I was like really athletic and stuff. But I didn't want to do sports. I just wanted to surf. Yeah. And so then I would get, bro, you big for nothing. Bro, you can run a 4.540 and you're that big for nothing. And I was like, I just want to surf. And then this twilight year happens, and so the graduating class of 2001, like the football crew, or a couple of some guys, not all, just a clique. It was like, yeah, bro, we were excited. A couple of times, I had like 10 guys. And then me and all my friends, like these little surfers, like surfers tend to be small, like non-confrontational guys. And then when this uncle was like, yeah, that's my sons. I was like, oh, okay.
They were part of the group.
yeah, okay. Shoots, uncle. But I mean, we're talking 20 years past. Like,
yeah, I was lucky. I never got in a scrap laws at Campbell. I got close a couple times.
Yeah, scrap for the non-Hawaii people. Scrap is fight.
Yes.
He never got into a fight.
Yes, I saw a lot. But there was like one.
How often?
Like almost every day after school.
Almost every day?
Yeah.
So, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but you said something earlier. You're like, oh, my sister's generation. What year did your sisters graduate?
I think 05.
So that's more similar to mine generation. But Kapolei opened at a certain point, so it really diluted things at a certain point. But so I think your sisters would have been okay at Campbell, because those years it was like peace, because Kapolei opened and all of the Makakilo and Kapolei people didn't come, so our school size got smaller before it got bigger again.
I agree. I think they probably would have been fine, but Alima was just so rough for them that they were scared that Campbell might be worse. Wow. And didn't know, like, it was probably the worst it was ever going to get at Alima.
Yeah, it probably was.
When I was going to Campbell, I was also scared of Alima kids. Like, those kids, they're terrifying. Yeah. Like, it was normally it's like the middle schoolers can smell the weed from the high school. It was vice versa. Like, we smelled weed coming over from Alima, and I was like, wait, what is that?
On, yeah. All the kids hang by the stage. Yeah. There used to be a certain gang over there in that age in our time. Well, you said two things that kind of are contradicting, so I want to talk about it.
Okay.
You said, and it's just, I hear it as contradicting, so clarify for me. You were like, nah, it wasn't that bad. By the time I went to school, like, it was way better, and, more of the new homes, like, the whole scrappy culture had been diluted, whatever. And I hear that a lot. Like, so I moved back home in 2019, and I would meet my classmates, and they'd be like, nah, bro, Campbell's not like when we went. Right, it's like one of the best schools now, And I would be like, I don't know about that. I don't know how much it could have changed. But they would be like, nah, Campbell's one of the best schools now. And then they would tell me all the reasons. And I could say, okay, gentrification, whatever. And I would hear what you're saying a lot. And you're almost like of that next generation that I was hearing about. But then you also said, oh, yeah, fights every day after school.
I mean, so
like, which is it? Like,
it's like I feel like it can be both.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the fights after school were, and I don't know this for a fact, but I feel like it was like the same people a lot of the time.
People who chose to be in that fight culture.
And so it like, I was never in fear that I would be in a fight that I didn't want to be in.
Yeah.
I feel like fights were it was almost a culture of. It was more of a duel than a mob, if that makes sense. Like, it wasn't someone being like, I'm going to beat this person up. It was me and this person have a disagreement and we're going to fight about it.
There's an endearing part to Hawaii. Like, so we're, like, in California, although my experience was different, I'll tell the story about it. But, and, in California, you're afraid you might get shot driving on the freeway, right? And I lived there for a decade. And then Hawaii, it's like, oh, we'll pull over, we'll duke it out, we'll shake hands, we'll go have a beer, and we'll finish fighting traffic to go home or whatever. And that you're kind of saying that of, like, people chose to solve their differences through fighting, and it was a choice.
And that isn't true 100% of the time, but it was true a lot.
Generalizing, yeah. Do you feel like those guys, like, train? Like,
yes, I know a few people who are currently in UFC.
Yeah. So those are guys that, like, after school they would go MMA, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, like, they were just about that life.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to avoid it, you could in your years.
Mostly. One of the times that stuck out as a time I almost got in a fight that I didn't want to get in. I had just pissed this guy off he was just wanting to be upset, one of those people. And
did you make people laugh at him?
I did not. That was a fair question. I was a very, very sarcastic kid. And when I moved back here, I got a little bit less sarcastic.
Knock that out of you a bit.
Because I feel like on the mainland, you're sarcastic and there's no consequences.
Here, part of
there was a consequence. Yeah.
It's a part. It depends. And like, so in the Northeast, it's like direct and sarcastic, like you roast each other. Mm-hmm. In the South, there's this like just everything you say is sarcastic. Like it's hotter than a motherfucking out here, or like I'm hungrier than a like. There's all these idioms. Like, and my wife, who's from here, my family's from the South. She has a hard time with. They're like, why are they always talking like? Like she's like literal and like Japanese, like oh no, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah. There's a sarcasm. You got to really know someone to be sarcastic here. Yeah.
Yes.
You're not sarcastic to strangers.
Exactly.
It's not endearing.
No. You really have to know someone and have that love established, have that friendship, deep friendship established before you're allowed to make fun of a person.
Yeah. There's this courting, there's this feeling out period. That might be the thing that gets you to be, you know, like forms the friendship and somewhere on the mainland. And we say mainland with it's a whole country, right? But like in the Northeast or the South, by being sarcastic, that might form the bond. Here, it would maybe disclude you from ever being friends. So you'd be like, oh, he's like a sarcastic asshole, right?
Yeah. And I learned that very quickly here.
You're like, what? I just teased you.
I was just
like, we're friends, right?
It was just like, and just like, oh, now this person does not want to be my friend at all. I have to talk to them about it. We have to have a separate conversation. Anyway, this person was trying to, was upset, and he was like, all right, you and me, let's scrap right now. And I was like, I mean, I was me, so I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know if we should do that.
I'm gonna take pass on that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna elect to say no on that one, and that didn't work. But luckily, one of the kids in that class was like, oh, he's my math tutor, you cannot scrap him.
You're tutoring him.
Yeah. I was like, oh, thank God. He was like, because if you fight him, I fight you, and you know I'll win. And I was like, okay, cool, all right.
Logic. There's logic being brought back to the situation.
I was like, oh, thank God. So I was rescued. Thankfully.
Where, do you remember where they're from? Because like when we went to Campbell, it was like the Eva Beach Boys, the Eva Boys, Kapolei's crew, not as respected, but then like there's Makakilo Boys. There's like we had like
the guy who stuck up for me, or the guy who was trying to
both. I
think not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure both Eva Beach Boys.
Yeah. Like old Eva Beach.
Yeah. Old Eva.
Yeah. Both things are true. Whereas Campbell doesn't seem to be, and you're a more recent grad. It's almost 10 years now, but doesn't seem to be what it was in like my time, my stepbrother's time, who are 10 years older than me. It's decades ago. But also you could get that smoke if you want to find it. Right?
Yeah. And I think too, and this is true.
I didn't intend for this to be like a Campbell podcast. But
I mean, why not?
That's what it is, yeah.
It's nice to reminisce.
Yeah.
I think it's true of everywhere in Hawaii is that if you have that underlying respect for the culture, individual people's backgrounds, like if you have that initial respect, you do have a little bit more leeway here.
All right, guys, thanks for watching our channel. We love the support. We love meeting you guys. Like we just met someone right here. And if you're ready to have a conversation about real estate in Hawaii,
check out the website, coreteamhawaii.com.
Yeah. Can you continue on the word respect? It's huge here, right?
It is.
Like respect and humility or being humble are the two words that are just, if you write Hawaii's core values, they're somewhere in there. Respect and humility, which could be encompassed by aloha. But what, like, how is that different? Because it's not like people in, take Texas, for example, an endearing southern state who's, you know, probably the second most prideful state after Hawaii. They're not necessarily leading with respect and humility. They're more like, you know, guns and freedom. Like the way freedom is in Texas, respect and humility is here. Like, what is that? Being like a white person growing up here, tell me about that.
Living here, every interaction you have is at least somewhat colored by the history. Like what I mean by that is when I interact with someone, I'm not just me interacting with this person. I'm also a white person who is, like you said, like my people have taken over, illegally overthrew Hawaii.
And
you
then
know,
I think the extension of that energy quickly is all the young GIs in the wartime.
Exactly.
Just being young assholes. Because that's what young, horny,
That's a great
20-year-old Marines do. But it's like left this scar, on Hawaii.
That also is, if I am an asshole, I'm not just being an asshole for me. I'm also being this reminder.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think having that respect is understanding the history and what is coloring those interactions with other people.
Does that mean you have to like shrink yourself?
I don't think you have to shrink yourself. And
because I think that's what some people listening will probably be like,
because
I'm not
I
just gonna
struggled
shrink
with that.
who I am.
Yeah, I struggled with that because I wanted to avoid conflict, so I would shrink myself. And I've only gotten comfortable, probably in college and afterwards, with the idea that you can be yourself and still respect what's around you. You don't have to shrink who you are. You just have to understand how it can come across. And I mean, no one should want to make other people feel bad. Like that's you don't have to diminish who you are, but you do have to say, oh, this is something that could leave a bad taste in someone's mouth. I'm going to not do that.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think
there's versions, like some people, there's no versions. Like, like our friend Dane, like I won't say his nickname, but, there's no versions of him. He's just Dane. But like with me, I'm like happy Derek, sad Derek, mainland Derek, Hawaii Derek, and I don't think that makes me fake. I'm just more complex in a way.
That's something.
So you could be the respectful version of Michael, and whatever, and not have to be the comedian all the time. We're just shitting on people, like roasting them. Like look at this fucking guy with mismatching socks. Like you don't have to be that all the time, right?
No, I think that's something fascinating here that I do not have the authority to speak on, but I think the code switching that happens here is so unique because people almost tend to view code switching being like these, like you said, these different faces that you put on in different contexts. And I think here that's so part of the culture. Like you have your face in front of like you have your face for job interviews and you have your face for when you're with your friends. And that's true everywhere.
You're literally talking about multiple faces, which is like two-faced, three-faced. I don't mean what I'm saying. I'm just throwing a challenge out.
No, that's a great point. It's not fake. It's just adapting to what you need to do to survive and thrive.
Can I give my anecdote? So
please.
When I was in the Coast Guard, I meet people from Boston and New York. And like the New Yorkers are so cool outside of their environment because they're so street smart, so savvy. They're coming down to your like Hawaiian level. They're just like, hey, just chill. Like, it's just fun and chill. And then this guy from Boston, he would roast this kid from Philly. He'd be like, yo, you so ugly, son. I can't believe your mother kept you. Like, yo, if I had a kid like you, I'd fuck either kill you or kill myself. Like he would just, and then the guy from Philly loved it.
Yeah.
And I was over there like getting mad for him. I was like, bruh, do something, because I'm fresh out of Hawaii. I'm 22 years old. I'm like, scrap him. He's like, why would you take it personal? It's so fun. And after 20 years of reflection, like I realized it's just different. It's not, one's not right, one's not wrong. So I tell people like we're halfway to the East geographically, and also we're like 50% culturally Eastern, which in a sociology class I took, they talk about things being, you said codes, but like code shifting, like encoded. So the way that Asians tend to talk, or Eastern people tend to talk, is like encoded. So you have to do a few exchanges to get the truth out because it would be disrespectful to be direct. I don't think people think that Japanese people are rude. Like, in fact, they're like so overly compliant that they're the opposite of rude. But then if you start to try to have dealings with them, if you're from Boston, you might be like, yo, just say what you want. Like, it's like rude. It would become rude. And me being from the mainland, my dad, born and raised Hawaii, I moved to Hawaii, went to Irima, Campbell, went back to join the Coast Guard, came back. I just feel like I have this like sideline view of it all. And I'm like, oh, they just don't understand each other. Like, there's good people here, good people here. Their communication's different. Like one's encoded. Like if we go to lunch, and I tend to be more direct than like mainland's the other way I communicate. Like I sound Hawaiian, but I'm like direct, and but you would be like, nah, I can pay. No, I got it. No, you can pay. No, and then there's like a feeling out, like two bears like not looking at each other but getting tense. There's like this feeling out of like, oh no, it's actually on me to pay this time. Like there's this unspoken energy of like, oh no, Derek's got it, or like nah, he paid twice, it's your turn or whatever. But I would never not offer, even if I paid for you 3 times. I always gonna have to offer, or be rude. I don't think New Yorkers think like that, or Boston people necessarily. Think. They're like, yo, I got you last time, son. You get the cheesesteaks this time or whatever. Like this.
Yeah.
No, and that's not rude either. That's like respectful. They're like, I'm saving us time so we can go and see the movie, you know, like, because I love you. Like, let's go watch a movie. Like, we'll not waste time.
That's another aspect of that, where I'm talking about respect being understanding the history and the culture is that everybody has that different background. And Hawaii is in such a unique place in terms of communication. Because like you said, it's right where East meets West, you know? Yeah. And so you have people who have, I think, a unique communication style here that's a blend. Yeah. And so you kind of have to meet people where they're at.
Right. You know? Yeah, because you might go drink Heineken's with some local guys and it's just straight roasting.
Yeah.
But there's like just a different thing to it, right? It's like hard to articulate. So that's what I tell people. I tell people you wouldn't bring your Chicago or Philadelphia customs to Japan or Guatemala or, you know, whatever African. You wouldn't bring it to like one of the Kazakhstan or something and think I can just be me. You'd be like, oh, I have to like change and adapt and kind of talk the way they talk because someone stamped my passport. Because no one stamps your passport when you go to Hawaii and it's a 50th state. You just like, I get to be, Michael from Philly, son. And that's where people go wrong, I think.
That's a great point, that because it's not that passport stamp, it's just, you can do whatever. It's just like visiting the next state to you.
Yeah, we should just do a culture stamp.
Yeah.
They make us go through that stupid agriculture thing anyway.
They should have you just read a couple paragraphs instead.
Yeah. Our channel is, we're happy that we get a lot of local people watching. So a lot of local people or Ninth Islanders or people in Washington or California watch, and that's amazing. And then there's a large percentage of people moving here too. Yeah. And so we get smoke for that. Like, bro, you guys selling the land? And we've addressed it before. And relocation is a part of the real estate industry with or without us. With my team, local people participate in it. Yeah. But for like, let's say someone's watching and they're like, oh yeah, my kid's 14 and we're going to move here and we're concerned about that. And we might move to Eva or we might move wherever. Like, what else would you add to them? Do you think they should move to Kailua? Like, why you
go? I think you can live anywhere here as long as you, especially taking someone younger. It's your obligation as a parent, I think, to make sure that someone younger understands where they're coming. Like as an adult, you're a little bit more stuck in your ways. Sure. But I mean, I'm so glad I went to Campbell because I learned so much more about Hawaii than I would have if I went to like a private
Radford.
School. Yeah, or well, we don't have to name drop. But I do feel like I learned so much more, and so pushing yourself into something that might be an uncomfortable space, knowing that it's a growth and learning opportunity, I think is the only thing you really, really need to do.
There's no growth in the comfort zone.
Exactly. And
that's not a realtor thing to say, right? We're all about growth and mindset. Wake up, make money. That's true. Like, you can't be comfortable and growing. It's true in like muscle hypertrophy or in anything. If you're comfortable, you're not growing.
I will say, sorry to
go ahead.
Pivot off, but I feel like it wouldn't be a full encapsulation if I didn't talk about also the things that you will naturally struggle with a little bit. Like, I'm not sure if
we like to be negative here. Like, that's where we got a new website, and then Google sent us this thing that's like, hey, your Google Analytics, and our top 3 searches were like something like moving to Hawaii YouTube or something, and then the third one was most authentic realtors in Hawaii. And wow. That was like a big badge of honor for me. I was like, oh, okay, we keep it real, you know? So yeah, be negative. Like,
so just something that I have really struggled with, because I have like going to elementary school here, but then moving and then coming back for high school and college. It's kind of this weird realm of local and not local at the same time, depending on who you ask.
Sure.
And so I feel like
You're
there's
more
a lot
local
of
than me.
but I mean, not if you ask certain people. You know, like it's so wrapped up in so many factors. Well, you weren't born here. Well, military parents.
Yeah.
Well, HAOLE. Like, you know, like there's all these
talk.
exactly.
Even local people who speak good English can sometimes like what school you at? Puno. Like there's just like bias, right? Like why is your English so good?
The root of what I'm trying to get at is that there's always this idea of, at least something I struggled with for a long time, is this idea of proving yourself. Proving that you've earned your stripes, you know? Proving that just because your pigeon doesn't come out day to day, it only comes out when you're drunk and Eva. Like because of that, there's this idea of, oh, if I'm not constantly proving it, if I'm not constantly showing that I'm local, then I'm not.
I struggled with that a long time, because you can imagine I was like born in like the like dirt road south. I mean, we didn't live on a dirt road, but we had family that did. Real redneck. I think my grandpa on my mom's side had like business dealings with the KKK.
Wow.
Yeah, and when my dad, who's like dark, was young, dark guy in like dirt roads, and I think he moved to Pensacola, Florida, when he in like 69 or 70.
Jeez.
And they like had a hit out on him for dating my mom. Wow. In the 70s, and or maybe it was early 80s or something, but. No, I think it was in the like mid 70s. They had like a hit out on my dad, and so legit, like my grandpa was a respected, feared man. But then later it was the like, oh yeah, our grandkids are Hawaiian, and you know it was that late, but it took decades. And so I on the mainland, like super mainland, and then I came to Hawaii. I was like crying. I was 9 years old. I didn't want to get on the plane, and then I got on the plane. My sister was like 16, so we fly over. And as soon as I got off the plane, I was like, oh, like people are brown. They were like throwing shakas and wearing slippers. And I remember I copied the guys. I got a booyah. I had like the ponytail and shaved sides, you know. And I was like, oh, I gotta live here. Like, where's my people? And so then Mahe from my team, if you haven't seen her on the channel, you'll see her. Her and her friend call it like Asperger's. You can feel free to use that in your material. But like,
that's so funny. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Like people who, because like local people might be just normal, local, not wear much, like maybe this hat or something. And then when they move to the mainland in your 20s, like I did, and you're in California, it's like fucking, like defend Hawaii and like the mokest, localist stuff, because you're trying to signal, right? I had to do that just moving here. Like I was like, okay, I'm going to surf and make boards and you know, make an emu or like do whatever, like anything to make me more Hawaiian. And I probably struggled with that until I moved home, actually, until like mid-30s, because then on the mainland, maybe not. Well, on the mainland, it was like in California, it was like I got extra points. And he said, oh, I'm from Hawaii. They'd be like, oh, I love Maui, or I go to Princeville in Kauai every year or whatever. And especially in a place like Santa Cruz, it would like win me points. So I was able to like leverage that and just say, oh yeah, I'm from Hawaii, and people would be intrigued. And then when I came home, I just finally was like, bro, it doesn't matter. Like in fact, I wouldn't be so successful with this channel and all this stuff if I didn't have that mainland point of view, I think. Because I can relate to people moving, local people realize like, it's like, yeah, he might not have been born here, but frick, he knows so much about Hawaii and whatever. Like, it just is what it is. But I always felt the need to your point, I always felt the need to prove until really, you know, until my mid-30s or so.
Comedy really helped me with that. Like, because when I would start to do jokes about here, when I first started, they would always be kind of like letting you know that I know the culture. Like it's that type of joke where I try to prove I'm local almost through my jokes.
Yeah.
And the jokes have gotten so much better and more authentic as I just reveal my perspective, my honest perspective, which is, depending on how many questions you ask me, I'm local. You know, if you're like, oh, raised here? And I'm like, yes. And I was like, what school you grad? Campbell. And then they get to military parents, and I'm like, oh, you got me. Like it's that authenticity, because I feel like here more than anywhere else, everyone has their perspective and their story.
Right.
And sticking to that instead of trying to prove that you're something you're not is going to be the only way that you come across as authentic.
So you started this point out by saying, like, let me get to like the negative parts of like, you always have to prove yourself. But in summary, is it like, you might think you always need to prove yourself, but don't. Just be a good person.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I think those people that are trying to prove themselves, it goes one of two ways. They get beat up because they miss, right? They like miss. Or, and I'm exaggerating, like people don't beat people up that often. But it goes over bad. Or if they're doing it but still have that respect and humility built in, that's kind of like endearing and goofy. They're like, oh, he's trying. Like, bro, you don't have to talk pigeon. Like, anyone can throw out a yes sir. Yeah. But like, don't go further. You know, like you pick a couple and use them in an endearing way, because you cannot.
My favorite thing is when just certain people will use things that they would never say out loud, but they'll use it over text. It's like the amount of times I've gotten a text saying like Raja, and it's like, no, you don't say that though. Like,
bruh, one of our agents does that.
Really? Yeah. That's so funny.
He'll be like, throw like at the end, or Raj and whatever. And he's that guy who's like respectful and humble. And so it's just, we just tease him a little. I'm like, bruh, don't do that. So we love him. But actually, I'm finally at a point where I'm comfortable saying, like, call me mainland, call me whatever. I hate Raj or Raja. I just don't like it. I don't like it when it's used as a yes, like as an affirmative yes. People are like, hey, do you want to go to the store? Raja? I'm like, that's not, no. Raja, like the derivative is like, I understand your command. Like Raj, like, oh, you guys like the movie Raja? I'm like, oh. Call me mainland, whatever.
I think there's a lot that that one to me is a soft spot. I love
like
hearing
Raja?
it. I love hearing
even
it.
in that context.
Oh yeah, it's just so nostalgic. It just reminds me of home so much. I don't know. There's some. I mean, hearing it from the wrong person gives me like
cringe,
chicken skin a little bit, but it's. I mean, that's true with any pigeon. It coming out of the wrong mouth can seem off a little bit. I encourage people when I say like how you have to earn your stripes and stuff like that, how you feel like you have to. The second way where you say you do it through like humility and stuff is so important, and I'm glad that I did feel like that, because I pushed myself to be in situations and learn more about myself. Because I was like, okay, if I'm not going to be considered local, like, what if I'm only hanging out with people that are from Old Eva? What if that's my crew? It's like, oh, that doesn't. I learned a lot, but it doesn't like make me more local. Nothing makes you more local.
There's no
magic spell that you can cast and you're like, all of a sudden I'm local now, and it's like, it doesn't happen. You just have to appreciate your perspective and learn as much as you can.
This might be kind of shallow. I'm gonna say it anyways. One of the points that got me past being insecure about that was when I started to have like financial success. I remember someone in my family, my wife's family, threw a little jab at me and was like, well, you know, because you're holiday, that's why. And I was like, okay. But now where I'm in just in life, I'm like, call me whatever you like. And that's maybe a shallow reason to gain confidence and wipe away insecurity, but that's just how it worked for me. Because I was always trying to prove to my wife's family, like, I'm a good guy, I'm local. Because like my brother-in-law, this is kind of maybe a weird topic to talk about live, like our broadcast, but I've talked to my brother-in-law about it jokingly, but he's like, my brother-in-law is like Japanese Okinawan, hardworking, blue collar, humble, quiet. Oh yeah, it can. Even though it's like inconveniencing him, we just make it happen, have some beers later, and just be quiet and humble kind of guy. And I'm not that guy, you know. I'll be like, nah, no, it makes sense though. Why would we do it like that? Let's talk about it. Like, I'll help you, but let's do it better.
Yeah.
And they're like, freaking holiday, you know. And I'm like, whatever. It's not. It doesn't. It's not logical to me to do it the way you want to do it, or whatever. And so I was always trying to like prove to them, you know, like, because he was like the revered brother-in-law.
Right.
And now I tell him like, bro, see, I'm the good one now. And we joke around, but yeah, I was like, oh, because you're holiday, you do things different. And when, it was like really empowering. I got to a point where I was like, I'm whatever you want to say, but I have results in life, you know. It would be hard if I still worked at Fun Factory, which I never did. But if I did, it would be hard to have that position, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the opposite of insecurity is security, right?
Yeah.
And so it makes sense once you have the means and once you have the confidence in yourself, once you have that base security level, the insecurity goes away.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Let's wrap it up with this.
Okay.
And let's get a bunch of questions. We can have Michael back. We can talk about, because I'm sure we went off on our own, you know, tangents, and you guys might, well, Michael, I want to hear Michael's perspective on Kailua versus Evlar. We can do all those things. We have him back as much as he's willing to come back. 5 things to do if you're Haole and moving to Hawaii.
Okay.
And 5 things not to do.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to say
We're going to go back and forth, or we're going to stay on one? How you want to do it?
I'll do them as they come to my head.
Okay, yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. So one thing to do is explore outside of your comfort zone. So, and I mean that physically.
Okay.
So hike. Go to beaches that aren't Waikiki or aren't
Kailua Beach.
Kailua. Yeah, exactly. Like go to places where you are slightly different.
Like go Makaha and just observe.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe don't go like HAOLE Bush, but like just go.
I never even wanted to go HAOLE Bush when I was in high school. And now I see just people live Ocean Point and they just go HAOLE Bush. And I'm like, okay, I guess it is different now.
Yeah. But I think exploring the nature here helps you appreciate why people are defensive and why people want to protect it so much.
Yeah.
So that would be one thing to do. Another thing to do is you have to understand the history. So there are classes you can take, but there's also just do a little research. If you Wikipedia Hawaii, you'll find out like enough of the history.
So get immersed and not only be open-minded, but more specifically, like do a little research.
Do your research.
Just understand the context of why some things might be the way they are.
If you don't
doesn't make ignorant people not ignorant.
No.
Doesn't make mean people not mean people. But understanding some context might help you navigate it a bit better, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Foodland poke. That's it. That's it. I think that'll convert a couple people. That's
all of a sudden they start throwing yesas out.
4, and I have a bit about this, but it is kind of said seriously, is for a little while, take the bus places. I think it builds character. I think you learn a lot about yourself on the bus.
It's introspective.
I think ride bus 42 for a little while, see what happens.
Okay.
No, but I do think you understand, and this is true of driving too, but I feel like it's more true of the bus, understanding the layout of the island, understanding the transition from the west side to town, like understanding all those parts, the in-betweens on the island, where you're not at a location, you're driving between them. The
flyover states.
Exactly.
The flyover zip codes.
Exactly. So understanding that. I know I have one more on things to do, but I'll take a break from that. Things not to do is don't force pigeon, please. Don't this is the camera. Don't force pigeon. If it does not come naturally, please don't.
Which it likely never will.
And it might
never.
If you're
old enough, if you move here as an adult, it likely never will be very natural.
But also
and that's okay.
Yeah. Don't stop yourself if you're drunk and it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna throw out yes, sir. One time.
Yeah.
Let's try it once.
I think you can do a
I
yes,
think you
you can do a shoot.
Yeah.
Like there's some you can sprinkle in
Try
some
it
for
out.
fun.
Try it out in the mirror at home first. see how that works for you. But don't force it. 2 is don't stare. That's a big one. That's huge here.
That's big here.
One time at Campbell, I had just moved back, and so I was just like daydreaming, just spacing off and walking, and it turns out I was staring at a guy, and he's like, "Hey, you get one eye problem,"
Yeah.
and I was just so obtuse. I was just like, "No, my eyes are fine," and I just kept walking, and. And he wanted to fight, but he was just so confused that he was just like, he was like, oh, all right. I guess I can't. All right. But yeah, don't stare.
Or if you are staring, then tell them you're daydreaming.
Yeah, just.
Sorry.
Just daydreaming.
Bad.
If you're a tourist here, don't spend your entire vacation in Waikiki. Don't do that.
Yeah. Or let's stick to people living here.
Even to people living here, like don't spend your time on base. Don't spend your time in Eva by Gentry. Don't spend your time don't spend your time.
So base and base.
Yeah, don't spend your time in the one place where you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
We're just throwing out random things now. I've lost track of numbers.
Yeah, no. Well, we would technically have 1 more to do and 2 more not to do.
Oh, okay. So you kept it in your head. I was hoping we were at 5 on each.
I was kind of doing.
This might be a little bit controversial, but we'll say it. For people that live here, don't only make fun of Micronesians. The joke is old. Make fun of people. That's one of the beautiful things here is you can make fun of everybody. Everybody can get it. Like we were talking about this before.
Yeah.
Is that like there's so much freedom in being able to make fun of everybody here. But don't keep harping on the same people all the time.
Micronesia is a large place.
It's huge. Yeah.
I don't even want to say the island that they're always teasing. 'Cause I know the ones that I'm gonna leave them alone. But there's a certain people that when they say Hawaiians say Micronesians, they're teasing these certain people.
Yes. As a comedian, I've heard too many jokes at this point. Space it out a little bit. I'm not saying don't do it, but don't only do it.
Right. There's something you said. There's something empowering about being able to tease everyone. I found it offensive that everyone was offended in California. Mm-hmm. And so I remember I asked this one girl, she's African, like some kind of, I know that's not a country, but I was like, oh, where are you from? And she was like, here. And I was like, no, but like originally accent. And she's like, I'm from, I don't know if she told me or not, but her bigger point she wanted to make was it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And I was like, how presumptive to think that I was going to form some judgment. Like it's just intriguing.
I want to celebrate this. I want to learn something. I want to. Yeah.
And I remember trying to explain to people, this is at Stanford. So it's like Stanford and Berkeley, the epicenters of wokeism, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember explaining like, no, where we're from, like you actually guess people's percentages. And like, oh, what? Let me guess. Chinese, Hawaiian, Filipino. The Puerto Rican. I knew it was Puerto Rican. Like that's like a Hawaii thing, right? And they were like, to even have the conversation could get you sent to HR. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this isn't a comfortable environment. I get it that maybe there's some people overreach in Hawaii and like,
oh yeah,
like Michael Nakashima is going to get more interviews than Michael something else or whatever. Like that's just, that exists. But at the same time, it's empowering and it's great to not be so tense.
When things are hidden and not talked about, it can breed something that you never see, and that's not good. But here, at least, when things are out in the open, and it allows for conversation to happen.
Sure.
And I think that can breed understanding.
Would you want to raise your kids? Do you plan on having kids?
I don't know.
Whatever happens.
Maybe. Yeah.
Let's assume you have kids one day. Would you want to raise them in any other state than Hawaii? And you don't have to say, like, maybe you do. I don't know. If you had a bad experience, it's going to be, hell yeah. If you had a great experience, yet you're like, Holly, like, That's pretty telling.
Yes and no. I want if I have kids, I want them to spend time here. I want them to have that experience, but I also want to expose them to as many cultures as I possibly can. If I can help them live overseas, or if I can help them live in the South, the Northeast, the North, I want them to, because I think the more global your perspective, the more that understanding grows. And I think having this as your foundation, having Hawaii as your foundation, is the most understanding, and it's such a good base.
Yeah.
And so I would want to raise them here, but I want to expose them to everything.
So, okay, let's do it this way then.
Yeah.
0 to 12 years old, you can only pick one place. Only one.
Got to be here.
You got to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm with you on that. I want my kids to be, that's been a huge thing for me, is for one, just being from somewhere else originally, but then in the Coast Guard, hearing these Boston people talk shit to each other, New York people, or there's like this guy from Ireland, and I didn't understand the beef between like the Irish and the British.
Yeah.
And when you're underway on a ship, like it's so boring. So like you save conversations until people are like, so what would you do if you won the lottery? If you said that too early in the like 2-month patrol, like save that. Let's not talk about that yet. For this guy, he was like, I'd buy all the ammunition and I'd take over the British regime, and like this. And he's meant it. He's like, if I had all the money in the world, that's what I would do. I'd go to war with Britain. But
just this one guy.
Yeah, just this one guy. But yeah, I'm with you. So I'm same. I would want my kids to have this base over any other base, but I also take pride in exposing them to other things.
Yes.
And not just having just this small. I think that goes with anywhere. But this is the foundation. Yeah, this is home base. Shit, I think that's a good place to stop this one.
Cool. Thanks for
Michael's a funny comedian. You killed it. So if people want to, are you active on Instagram?
Yeah, so I'm the other Michael Madsen on Instagram.
Is there a famous Michael?
There's a more famous Michael Madsen.
Oh, yeah.
So one day I'll pass him.
Okay.
So the other Michael Madsen, Madsen. So that I post all my shows there. I perform at Blue Note every once in a while. Stand up Honolulu, where you saw me, in Kaka'ako.
Okay.
That's another regular place I perform.
Cool.
A few bars all over town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And if you want to book me for a private gig, I do that. So
awesome. So yeah, hit up Michael if you need those services or just want to go to a show, and hit us up with questions. Fill this one up with questions, so that we can come back here and maybe do this again.
Cool.
All right, guys. So common questions people give us all the time. Is it too early for me to look? It's not. Make sure you click the link below to check out our website, fill out the contact form, let us know your timeline, and let's connect soon.